Blake, are you ready to close with your bill?
Yes, sir.
You're recognized to close.
Once again, we can be better as a state. We can be more inclusive. We can be a forward-thinking state. What this bill literally does is change state statute, change the words on the paper, and change how we go forward. We would never change that Star once meant the Confederate States of America. But what we can change is what it means to our kids and their kids going forward. So I would appreciate if you guys would consider passing this bill. Thank you.
Committee, you've heard Representative Blake close with House Bill 1487. What's the pleasure of the committee? Representative Clowney, you're recognized.
Make a motion to pass.
We have a motion of do pass. Is there any discussion on the motion? Representative Clowney, you're recognized to discuss your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Flags are not historical documents. Flags are symbols. They're symbols that we as a state are supposed to rally around. And there is currently a star on that flag commemorating a government that tried to enslave 15% of the population. That's just the facts. I understand that the Confederacy is part of our history. So is Jim Crow. So is the Elaine Massacre that Representative Blake mentioned. But we don't commemorate those things on our flag. And that's the word, it's commemorate. It's not that the star represents or symbolizes, it's commemorates. Commemorates means to remember and respect. I'm an avid defender of the importance of remembering. We should never forget the role that any of those things have played in our state's history. I mentioned earlier that I teach history, and I teach history because it matters. It matters because of how it affects our present. Today we've heard from a colleague about how our history and how the glorification of part of that history continues to impact him and so many others in our state today. History matters.
Just a minute, Representative Clowney. There'll be no approaching the committee members while the committee is in process. There'll be no approaching committee members. I apologize, Representative Clowney. Go ahead.
Thank you. History matters, but so do people. We can remember history without glorifying it, without causing continued pain and suffering for our brothers and sisters and friends and neighbors. I encourage you to hear the voices that we heard today in support of this bill, and I encourage you to vote yes, as I will. Thank you.
You've heard Representative Clowney's explanation on the motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion of a do pass? Representative Gonzalez, it's committee members only.